Welcome to the Depth Perception Podcast.
We go in depth about the perception and misconceptions of optometry,
which include the business of optometry,
social issues within optometry,
and life as an optometry student.
Coming straight from Dr. Jasdeep Singh Soni,
Dr. Nadia Afghami,
Dr. Douglas Akiti,
and Dr. Svetlana Nunez. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hear ye. Welcome to the Depth Perception Podcast. We have such a special guest. I feel like I've known you for like my whole optometry career, Dr. Richardson. It's been a long time. I was like a first year. You were just graduating, right?
Yeah, I graduated in 2015.
Yeah. So I started in 2016. So you had just graduated. Yes. Such a crazy time. From Western too, right? Or am I wrong?
So
Indiana. Okay. I thought I saw you there once, but I think you might have been just like practicing in lab or something.
In Indiana?
No, at Western. Would you not go there?
Oh.
I have this like vague memory of like running into you there.
I've worked with Johnson & Johnson for a long time, so I've been to I've definitely done like speaking engagements and student stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went to Indiana, so IUSO.
Nice. Wow. Time is crazy. JD always tells me that he's been practicing for 10 years. He's like, I've been in
No, I say I've been in the field for 10 years, practicing for 6 years. But yeah, you have to include those 4 years. They're important. Add those.
Okay.
I've been in the field for 10 years.
Me too.
I've been in the field for a long time if you add those 4 years.
Do the math. That's 15 years, right?
Yeah, 16.
Wow. Time is just like going by so fast. It's crazy. Well, we want to talk about, you have many babies, 2 babies, but your newest little baby, right? So I want to hear everything, honestly, like why you got started, like, all the whole process. So I want to know like what made you decide to start Clarity on Melrose first. So I'm so excited to talk about it, to be honest.
Yeah. So do I need to introduce myself?
Yes, please. I feel like everyone knows you, but please introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Danielle Richardson. I am an optometrist based in Los Angeles, California, specifically the West Hollywood neighborhood. I have been an optometrist for, as we just talked about, over 10 years. I started my career in New York, then I practiced in Houston, and then I moved to LA. I just opened my own optometry office. It is a boutique private practice called Clarity. And we can get into this in a little bit, but for SEO purposes, I call it Clarity on Melrose because it makes it easy to find. When you open a business, you should be thinking about this from the start. But when people type in on a Google search, usually there's a bazillion eye care. Any optometry related business is going to have other competitors. There's very similar names. So from the very beginning, you should be thinking about how your patients can find you. So all of our socials, Clarity on Melrose, website, clarityonmelrose.com, but like truly the practice is called Clarity. I started my practice based on experience. Like many of you, you start off kind of working in those high volume corporate settings. I've been in every mode of private practice since then. I had a sublease. I've worked in retail based settings. I've worked in more medically focused settings. I've worked high, I've worked low, I've worked for franchisees. And ultimately, I found my footing with private practice, particularly the higher end of the market. And that's just, I like to dress like this when I go to work, which this is the exact same way I dressed when I was in Indiana. And if you're listening, I have on red lipstick, I have big gold hoops, like it's just a little look. And, I recognized pretty early on that look doesn't fit in every single mode of practice. So if I wanted to feel like myself as an optometrist, instead of fitting a square peg into a round hole, I can just create my own box and fit within that. So Clarity just opened at the top of the year, and technically we opened in February of 2026. It is now May, so we have been operational for a few months and we are doing really well. So I'm excited to talk about Clarity. Again, how I started or why I decided to create my own practice. Not only did I not fit within other models, but I had a baby. So as my life changed and transitioned, working in an appointment-based business, it doesn't have any flexibility if you're not the owner. So I knew that I was going to need flexibility for when, your daughter gets sick, or if I have to take her somewhere, or just whatever the childcare situation may be. That is really ultimately what pushed me over the edge and led me to do it now.
Wow. So many thoughts, so many questions. Should we label the pod A Tale of Two Babies, not Tale of Two Sisters?
Right?
one thought that comes, I want to know about the passion and why you feel, you're talking about square or pegs or circles or fitting pieces in, like where that comes with the private practice. And also, like, ironically, someone might think starting a business would take away flexibility, but I love how you're saying how the business could lead to flexibility. And, Nadia, jump in as you're in a similar situation. Those are a couple things I'd love for you to talk about.
Yeah, well, one, quote that I live by is the time is going to pass anyway. So if I start the practice now, when back then my daughter was a little baby, I could start it when she was 2, I could start when she was 5, I could start when she was 15, right? But it doesn't matter when I do it. The time between now and then was going to pass. So I felt that it was best to start now, right? When's the best time to start? Yesterday. The second best time to start is today. So ultimately, the reason I started at this point is because as you build, right, that time is going to pass anyway. If I start now, my thought is in 5 years, when my baby is 5, the practice will also be 5, and I'll be able to, be more established, and we'll be able to, focus on other aspects of the business as opposed to it being in the startup phase where I'm so in the business and so in the weeds. So I think everybody has to kind of look at life and look at your different variables, but I'm a firm believer there's never a right time. You have to, if you want to move into private practice, you are going to have to take the leap. When it comes to my passion behind private practice, as I've said, I've worked in several different modes of practice, and I'm a yapper. I like to talk to my patients. I like to, chat. I like to catch up what's going on. Sometimes we, gossip. We talk about reality TV, whatever the case may be. And I don't like being rushed. I don't like being in high volume models where I've got 10 or 15 minutes for an exam. I'm telling patients like, this is your prescription. If it doesn't work, come back. Like, that to me is not patient care, not why I became a doctor. So I think, I have colleagues in every mode of practice, and people find things that are right for them. And none of those modes of practice felt right for me. So ultimately, I am passionate about the patient care experience. I hate being inconvenienced. I really don't like waiting. There are just so many things wrong with, as a patient, when I'm trying to book an appointment with another provider, or when I go to another, there's just so many things wrong with that experience. And I think, if you look at what's happening in the optometry landscape, private equity and these big corporations are buying up all of these practices and rolling them all up together. So in 10 years, what does the field look like, right? If everything is corporate and everything has the same feel, there is going to be a segment of the market who is looking for something different. And really the business opportunity, what I see in private practice is that there's going to be a lot of patients who don't want that model for the rest of their lives. And I can build a business that's going to be able to serve them today and going to be able to serve them for the next however many years.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because we had a pod recently where I also was like, yeah, I feel like I have more flexibility now, just because I feel like when you're working for someone, you feel so obligated to be like, I have to take this day off, or I want to be there for my family, or I have to do this, right? Now I have like an appointment with my OB. I'm like, I'm not coming in until 10. Like, just block my schedule off, right?
Adjust the schedule. We had a new parent orientation that was at 10 a.m. on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, well, just block the schedule. I'll come in the afternoon. Today, I had to go to a doctor's appointment.
Right.
Okay, I can just block the schedule. And again, when you're in charge of the schedule, you get to set those things. And obviously, we're both in like that early phase of ownership where we're still in the business too. But then it also gets to a point where you don't have to be there at all. And it doesn't matter what you do with your time, because you're there 1 day a week or 2 days a week. And you even have more flexibility because you have associate doctors who kind of are covering that office for you.
Yeah. What do you think is the main difference between, because you said you had a sublease before and like owning now this new private practice?
I'm going to be transparent. I got scammed. I feel like they presented to me like, this is a great opportunity for a young entrepreneurial OD. Was it a great opportunity for a young entrepreneurial OD? That's to be determined. So one thing
no.
It was not. Okay, so this was this was in fall of 2015. So I graduated in 2015, and then I started the sublease, I guess, right in like December of 2015. And what I learned from that is that patients go to the doctor by where they live or where they work. So geography matters more than anything else, because while I was in Houston at the time, and my sublease was like 30 minutes away on the other side of town. And everyone, I was young, meeting a lot of people, people were great. And they'd be like, oh, you're an eye doctor. I'd love to come see you. And then I would tell them where it is. And they're like, yeah, I'm never coming there. And that was just kind of eye-opening, right? Because you can put your practice where you want with the idea that like, if you build it, they will come, but that is not reality. At the end of the day, I believe everything happens for a reason. And I learned so much about that. And I also learned that like that model's not for me. So you don't get to participate in any of the upside of glasses or contact lens sales. I think some, if you're a bigger sublease owner and you have like multiple locations, there are some different structures, but that's where all the money was being made. So I was like doing the math and realizing like I want to make more money and I don't like the location. And then increasingly, you kind of have that like corporate overreach where it is your sublease, but you have expectations required to maintain it. And they can terminate your sublease if you're not meeting them to their satisfaction. It was a learning experience for sure. I only kept it. Literally, my contract was 1 year. They do a year to year. I was closed as soon as possible. So I think it was a great learning experience, but the way it was presented to me as like an opportunity for unlimited growth, however hard I wanted to work, that's actually not true because it was limited based on where it was and based on the existing patients. And, ultimately that wasn't a good fit for me.
I like your mindset with some of these things, right? You're like, hey, I tried this. It wasn't for me. This is how I pivoted. And this is why I do like this or why I don't like this. Or like when you're talking about business, you're like, the best time to do this was yesterday. Or another thought you were mentioning was, just how direct and like strong in your convictions, you even said with private equity, like some people might say, hey, private equity is coming, I should run away from it. You're like, this presents an opportunity, right? I think that takes a certain mindset. Can you expand on like why you feel like you're so strong in your conviction and having that mindset?
Yeah, I think, one of the things, it's always been my personality. My mom makes a joke. So if someone asks a question, I've always just answered it, like even as a child. And she's like, you don't know if that's the answer. But like, I would just be so definitive, like, oh, it's over there. Like, oh, it's this way. Or, oh, this is what's going to happen. She's like, stop doing that. Like as a child. But like, I just think ultimately, we each have a purpose in this world. And my purpose is really aligned with like expressing these convictions and being authentic to myself. And I am a leader. I've always been that way. And I don't mind confrontation. I don't mind being wrong. I don't mind having an opinion. And that's something that a lot of people do mind. And so I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way to be. You just have to understand who you are. So that's one piece of the puzzle. And then I think it's also important. I have a very strong point of view. So like when you look at Clarity, it does not look like another optometry office. Like you have not seen an office that looks like my office. And again, that is because it is an expression of me. So, I worked with an architect, I worked with an interior designer, but these are all my ideas and my point of view in bringing that into the world. So I think there's space for everyone, but you have to be authentic to you. So it's like, you can't be trying to recreate what someone else has done. You can do it, but you're never going to be successful because you're always going to be 2 steps behind someone who's coming before you. So for me, I don't really look at what I'm doing as having competitors because I'm focused on my customer. I'm focused on serving them and capturing this part of the market. And if I can do that, there's more than enough money to be made in my own lane. And I don't really have to be trying to do what everyone else is doing. So that's where private equity isn't a competitor to me because they have a lane and it's not my lane. Like my customer doesn't go to a place where they can't get a person on the phone, where if they feel rushed or upsold or whatever the experience, when you move into a more corporate model, you obviously focus a little bit more heavily on KPIs and certain metrics and hitting them. And there's an impersonality to that experience when everyone is hyper-focused on numbers and a bottom line. So I don't view anyone else's competition because ultimately I am one of one and what I'm building is one-on-one. So in the future, I hope that there are other doctors who feel comfortable like expressing themselves and creating a business that is aligned with them. But ultimately, I think I've always felt in optometry, I'm most interested in the business aspect. And so it was I ran away from the profession for a long time. I had a decade-long career where I was like a yoga instructor and a corporate wellness speaker, and I got a book published with Simon and Schuster, and I thought I was going to be this like Deepak, type of person. And it's like, I am in a sense, like I thought I was gonna be like Dr. Oz. And it's like, yeah, kind of, but like, now obviously that ship has sailed a little bit. But I think it's like, to me, I'm comfortable expressing my version of optometry and putting it out into the world instead of waiting for someone to like give me permission to make it happen or waiting for it to appear.
Yeah, I was really into those clarity hoodies. I never got one, but
I'll send you, like, literally I have dead stock, and I hate to say this, but I understand why like luxury companies like burn their goods, because it's like, I don't want these to, like, I don't want this to just end up anywhere, right? But like, I do need to get rid of this. I have too much stuff left over. So we'll chat, and
you should set it up. I mean, your office is called Clarity. Why not?
I know, because it's two separate customers, right?
I know.
Two separate customers.
The vibe's a little different.
Business, know your customer. Now there is some overlap. But if I have a patient who works in marketing, he's been really helpful for me, sort of like bouncing ideas off of. And one of the things he said in the beginning that has sort of become like a principle or guiding light for me is, when I was thinking about offering a lot of different services, he's like, it's reminding me of a place where they're selling Chinese food, fried chicken, and pizza. Like, too much. What am I here for? And that really stuck with me. So it's like, I don't want to muddy the clarity water, right, with this other thing that I was doing. So it's like, is this an eye doctor's office? Is this a yoga business? And I mean, I think there's space for all of those things, but you have to have in my opinion, in this phase of my business that I'm building, I want to have a very clear point of view, and for a patient to really easily understand what I'm doing. So I don't want to be in Taco Hut, you know what I mean? The Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut.
You could do a trunk show, do a little yoga, give out the hoodies.
Of course you can, but I just feel like that, and it's just this season that I'm in, but that is still very much a part of who I am. And that business will always exist because I still get booked regularly to do corporate speaking engagements on behalf of my company, Fierce Clarity. And there's like always people asking, when's the next retreat? When's the next event? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? And so when I'm out of this season of a toddler and a business and like all of those things, I can come back to it. I really feel like life is long. And so, I believe in, again, because I create businesses, because I create things that are aligned with myself and that have an intentionality to serve the person it's for. Like, I don't think there's an expiration date on it. But for now, I like to keep them kind of separate. So, I'm not really trying to sell biker shorts and sunglasses in the same spot.
I'd come buy some on Melrose, Selah.
Nadia, why don't you, compare,
I'd
love to hear, Nadia, what you think, like when she's talking about her practice and her vision, and as someone who just started her practice or just bought a practice, like, what were your thoughts? What were going through your head?
Very different, because I acquired a practice. So it's not my vision quite yet. And I thought like, oh, in 6 months we'll remodel. But honestly, like the patients that are coming in, I think like the familiarity of it. So I think it's going to be a little bit before I do any of that kind of remodeling, because really like I'm the only change that they see. So that makes them want to like come back because it's familiar. Where I know like Dr. Richardson, she just like started from scratch, like, like the walls are painted so beautifully. And you have that artist in there, and I remember you picked your like custom countertops and like all that stuff. So I'm not there yet, like maybe in a few years when I build the patient base too. But I thought it was interesting that you said like you talk a lot, right? Because I feel like they were with this guy before the Dr. Lawyer's office. He was the practice owner before me, and they were like so familiar with him because they went to him for 30 years. Like now I have to spend that extra time to be like, I am also here for you, So in optometry, it's crazy because we're like one of the only professions that like you have to like sit down and actually like talk to your patients if you really like want to build a connection. Like when I see my OB, they're like, okay, stats are good, this is your blood work, see you in 4 weeks, but like in optometry, like that 30 minutes or 20 minutes is like your time to really make that connection. I can't tell you how many times a day I'm like, yeah, I'm having a baby, I'm having it at this hospital, blah, 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 So They really want to get to know you, and that keeps them coming back, right? For the most part.
Definitely. And I mean, I will say, I think, for listeners who are interested in going into private practice, there are several different models. Acquiring a practice is great because you have built in cash flow and revenue projections from the beginning. So it's like, you don't need to spend money on a remodel when you acquire a practice because you just want to focus on continuing to grow that revenue stream. And then whenever, you get it to a place, whether you wanted to grow by 5%, 10%, 20%, when you get there, then you can remodel, but it's not so cash intensive upfront because you have that cash flow coming in. There were just no practices for sale. And also I just felt like, I just have to be, again, honest with who I am. Like, I'm a bit much. And so I didn't feel like I could just walk into anyone's office and they'd be like, oh, you're the new doctor. Like, I feel like it very much needed to be like, oh, I love this doctor. I'm going to see her here. And that's why. And again, when I think about building my business, to me, my vision is a multi-location scalable model, but you have to create a brand DNA so that people know that where they are. So the goal was with this very first one for this to serve as like the heartbeat. Like, this is what this business is, what this brand is. When we pick this up and put this out location 2, location 3, location 4, it changes with the building, but the heart of it is the same, right? We use the same stones, we use a similar color palette. Like, I know I'm in Clarity. And to me, the most aligned neighborhood to put that in was the Melrose neighborhood of West Hollywood. This is where I've lived. I worked not, a little bit further away, but I lived like on Melrose. I moved in 2020. I go to the Melrose Place Farmers Market every Sunday with my family. This is just the area I spend so much time in. And I felt like it was important to put my business here because then I don't need to explain to the patient who we are or what we do. Simply by geography, they get it, right? So if you put a business on Rodeo Drive, a person knows like where I am and what type of place I'm in. Similarly, where I put my business in West Hollywood, specifically like on Melrose, is a signifier in terms of like, what is the brand about, and who do we serve?
From the time that you had your idea to the time when you opened, like how much time did that take?
I'd say like seriously, a year and a couple of months. So I knew when I came back from maternity leave, my job as it existed in its previous state was no longer available. So I came back from maternity leave September of 2024. And that was when it was pretty clear that like, okay, I'm going to need to like explore what does it look like to open a practice. I hired a consultant, Eric Matai from Acrinos, and he helped me put together a business plan. I was able to take that business plan to the bank. I applied for a bank loan January 1st, 2025. Literally, I was like, okay, New Year's resolution. I'm really, I'm woo-woo. So like lean into that universe. So I was like, this is a day of new beginnings. And so I applied for the loan in January 2025. And we had a soft open like January 2020. And we're really open and operational starting February of 2026. So if you include those months of working on the business plan with the consultant and, kind of that full build out process, I'd say like maybe a year and 3 months.
And what did you think was like the hardest part from that, like start to finish? Like, what was the most challenging thing that you had to do?
I think the hardest part is, deciding what you are going to do and who you're going to serve. So one of the things that I was very clear on from the beginning is I want my business to be repulsive, right? Like, I don't want everyone to feel like this is for them. So I want people to look at it and say, oh no, like I would never go there. Because that polarizing effect, the people who it's for clicks and they get it instantly. They're like, yes, I love this. I want to go here. So I think you have to make those decisions from the beginning. They're not something you can just sort of like build into the brand. So, I think the hardest part was really getting clear on what type of business I wanted to build. What were the revenue streams of those businesses? How do you differentiate yourself in the market? I feel like right now in particular, OptiLight was approved for dry eye treatment in April of 2021. So that means we've had 5 years of sort of the proliferation of IPL, radio frequency, like everyone's doing aesthetics, everyone's doing dry eye, everyone's sort of offering all of these things. So I think The hard part is narrowing down what are the services you want to offer? How does that fit within your patient population? And how do you define that patient population and create financial projections that you can take to a bank and they'll give you money to actually build this thing?
Yeah, that's true. Like for me too, I was like, the financing was like the hardest part because you're trying to prove like this business is going to be successful, right? And it's like you have to convince so many people that it is.
And you have to be able to show it. Like, how do you do that? And so, for me, I had to hire someone. Like, I'm like nursing a baby, sitting with a spreadsheet. That's just not realistic. But it's like I can sit with a spreadsheet and say, we are going to put it in this zip code. This is, the medium household income. This is how many people seek out aesthetic services. This is how many people wear this type of contact lens. Like, this is the expected revenue per patient. This is who's our competitors in the area, what they're offering and how we're different. And I think that exercise in really getting an understanding of your business is the hardest part. From there, it's just execution upon the business plan. But I will say the second hardest part is when it goes from in theory to in practice. So I thought, we opened up, I was going to get this working capital. It was going to last me, several months. I was going to be smooth sailing. And I mean, thankfully, I have been practicing in Los Angeles since 2018. So I have an established patient population. I have hundreds of reviews on ZocDoc. So like people can find me. We are much busier than a traditional cold start, but even still cash flow is crazy at the beginning because you have so many startup costs, right? The frames, paying, the build out went over budget. So I had to pay contractors and pay people for build out things. You have to pay just all of these expenses on the front end that when you're doing that business plan and building those projections, right, that's not being built into the model. So I think the second hardest part is managing cash flow as a cold start. And I don't think I was really prepared for that because there's no way you can prepare because you don't know what those numbers are going to look like.
Yeah, I think it's hard because especially like banks, they know a lot of data about like other professions, but for some reason for optometry, they're not as familiar, So it was just really hard to be like, hey, this practice is going to make this much based on this, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so I feel like it's a challenge just in general with optometry, just to like prove like, hey, we're worth it. Here's what is going to happen and that kind of thing. But you did it, girl. So that's great.
Yeah, and because I was a cold start in a very expensive market, I did go to like optometry specific lenders. So I focused on banks that had medical lending, specifically optometry divisions, because there was just no way anyone was going to give me the amount of money that I needed otherwise.
Yeah, it's easier actually. The bank told me it's easier for a startup than it is for an existing practice. Isn't that crazy?
Interesting.
Like they fund existing practices less, like they're more harsh on that than they are for startups. So that's wild.
That's good news for me.
And you mentioned juggling baby girl. So tell us how it's been. Like, how do you feel like, I mean, I feel like I'm pregnant now. So I got to do everything with her, which was really cool. Like, when we went to get our, business license, when, she was with me. So it was like really like nice to like feel that. But like for you, you're building a legacy now, right? So
yeah, I mean, I think it's cool in the same way. And when I signed the lease, she was in a stroller. She was, a little potato. And then as we were in the design phase, I have videos of her running around the space when we're marking the tape on the floor. So many times, like I would have to come before her nanny came, or like she's had to come like in an active construction zone, very hazardous materials all around. But I have all of these videos of her sort of growing in this space. And now she's 2 and she was just here on, last week. Neither of my nannies were available on Tuesday. So I had to not do patient care, but I still need to come to the office and get things done. So she had to come, and she knows, like, we have like a mailer that we have that has a picture of the office. And she was telling, our store manager, she's like, oh, this is mommy's office. And so to kind of like see that whole process, it's very, very cool because it is an insane undertaking to have done this with a, she was less than a year old. So like 6-month-old, 7-month-old, whatever it was. But it's also really cool because I think one of the things as a person who's been like I would say an optometry influencer for a long time, like I've gone to conferences and there's nothing for moms. And like, I've had to complain again, to the CEOs, to the executives and be like, look, this profession, there are women here. And like, I'm trying to open a practice and you're saying I can't bring a baby in the exhibit hall, but I'm about to buy $75,000 worth of equipment. And you're telling me I can't get this deal done because I'm not allowed to bring a baby. Like, that doesn't make sense. And so I feel like part of, again, like me and what I am doing is just being visible as a mom. And like, I have to bring my baby and this is what it is. And, I'm so thankful that optometrists who came before me, told me that. I remember when I was in rotation, I had multiple women sort of say to me, and I really remember I went to Dr. Tanya Barnes. She has an office in New York. She's an adjunct professor at SUNY, and her husband, Dr. Frank Barnes, is an optometrist too. And she told me, she like sat me down and showed her her schedule, and she had like blocked off pickup time in the afternoon for her schedule so she could go pick up her children. She was just saying, if you want to be a working mom, it is really important that you have autonomy over your schedule. And because, the school calls you when they forget their homework, when they're sick, like they call mom. And to just have that flexibility is so important. And this is also peak girl boss era. I was reading Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, and like, she's saying the same thing, right? As she was an executive when she became pregnant, she was able to put like expecting mother parking spots in the parking lot. She just didn't realize that they didn't have that until she crossed that threshold. So I think there is something about showing the next generation of doctors that you don't have to wait until your child is 10, 11, or 12 years old to focus on your professional career. You can build both things in tandem. And I think as a profession that does, there's becoming more and more, the split is becoming more and more even some schools skewing more women than men. Like, this is a real consideration we're going to have to make. What does work look like when you are a doctor, but you're also the primary caretaker of your child? And that's, obviously you can have incredible support from your husband, your partner, whoever, but at the end of the day, like, a baby wants mom. And I think it's important to show my daughter and show other women that like baby wanting mom doesn't stop mom like getting to the bag.
Yeah, I think what you mentioned about, we won't say which conference, but the fact that they didn't let the babies come, it was a little bit.
I was watching strollers, families being turned away, and it's like, optometry is a family profession. Like most offices, private practice, both parents are working in the office. The kids are growing up like in that office. Your whole family's coming to optometry's meeting, and you're seeing everyone. It's just, I think, as a profession, we just have to be mindful of how we're showing up. And I think if you do have a voice, you should use it to make sure that, we're just making spaces as accessible as possible.
Yeah. In fact, I asked in Orlando because when I was there, when I was pregnant, and I was like, am I going to be able to bring my baby? And they said you can bring the baby only in a carrier. Like, they can't be in a stroller. And you have to like register the baby. So I don't know if it's like based on venue or what it is, but it should be
I think, well, I was told that the policy has always been no children, but they just were enforcing it that time. But it had been a long-standing policy of no children. So, I think it is, conference specific, venue specific, whatever. But again, okay, if you don't want children, do you have caretaking services available, right? Do you have a daycare center or a nanny company you can partner with that I could contract for 1 or 2 hours to get childcare, right? It's not about you necessarily having to change whatever your policies are, but if that's what your policy is going to be, then what can you offer young, like mothers with young children? Or am I just not supposed to come for the next 5 years?
Right. And it doesn't make sense because
the whole point, right, of the conference is you want doctors to connect with your vendor partners, right? You want them to do transactions. You want them to do business. And if you are creating barriers between your doctors and your vendors, what is the point of the conference, or what is the point of an exhibit hall or whatever? I just think you have to, like, I don't ever approach it. Like, I'm approaching it from a business perspective. Like, I'm not saying you have to allow children. If you don't want to allow children, that's fine. But like, what are the resources available? Because you're just saying like, it's not my problem. And it is your problem because I'm not going to come here again. I'm going to go somewhere else because children are welcome at other meetings. So I think You just, again, have to decide what's important to you. And when you see something that maybe is not aligned, like call it out and bring it to their attention, because maybe they don't necessarily know that this is a point of friction for their attendees.
Yeah. And just to wrap up, like, feel like as a woman in the profession, just in general, like, do you feel like you are getting some pushback? Because like sometimes I'll give an example. I don't know if I told the story before. I know I told the pod, but I changed the locks on the door, and the locksmith was like, if he wants to like have this extra key, like you let me know. And like I had already written him a check, like, and I was like, I'm the doctor, like, and I think that they just imagine like the doctor being a man. So I don't know if you've like had that, because I know you started like literally from scratch. Like, did you ever get like pushback or anything?
No, I don't, because I would say like when I was younger, I definitely had like a lot more of those instances of like, oh, where's the doctor going to be here, whatever. But at this point, first of all, I'm tall, like I'm 5'8", and I have a very commanding presence. So it's like, I think like physically I demand respect. And like, that is, I think I'm very like, I think when I meet with people in person, it's very, very clear that like we are on equal footing. We are peers. Like, you are not influencing me. If anything, I'm like, you need to prove to me why I should do business with you. And that sort of like posture, I think just in general kind of wards that off. But then when I do run into instances where I need to bring in the big guns, my husband's a lawyer. So thankfully we kind of can do this like good cop, bad cop tangle where it's like, he doesn't mind, arguing with people because he can do that. Like in his sleep, that's what they do. They get paid for it. But I would say it's definitely something I've come into as I've gotten older. When I was younger, definitely there was a lot of that. And I would, try to wear glasses or wear a white coat or, just try and change my appearance and try to fit more of a mold of what people thought a doctor was. But at this point, it's like, no, I'm the doctor. Like, I'm Dr. Danielle Richardson. And, I'm going to introduce myself as such, give you a firm handshake, and you need to make it make sense to me. And then I think another thing is, and this is something I really learned from my husband because he's very confrontational as an attorney. He will escalate to the CEO. He worked at Amazon for years, and people would email Jeff Bezos, and he was like, that's so crazy. People just emailing Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos would make somebody do whatever it was the person wanted to get done. So I have employed that, unfortunately, a few times in the optometry space where it's like, you are not responding to my emails. You think this is a game? Like, okay, let me loop in the CEO and I get action immediately. So I think taking some of those lessons from men can be really helpful when people do kind of play with you or think like, oh, I'll get around to it when I'll get around to it. No, you'll get around to it now because I'm your customer. At the end of the day, I'm the one writing the check, not you. So you will get this completed. And I think like that energy is a little bit different than how many other optometrists are. So because, like it only takes like one time for that to happen before people are like, oh my God, like do not play around with her.
Yeah. Recently, like, it's interesting that you said the thing about the white coat because I am very pregnant and it's very hot in Vegas, and I will wear like a maxi dress, right? Like, without my white coat because it doesn't quite fit very well these days. But she like complained to the staff that I didn't look like a doctor. So it's like, that's just crazy. And I was like, okay, tell them you'll tell the owner and she'll take care of it. Like, girl, I'm the owner. Like, why would you say that? That's crazy. But
I mean, it's the reality. Like, perception is reality. And so I've definitely been in spaces, even when I worked multiple jobs while I was building out this practice, where I had to wear a white coat and scrubs because that was more of what the patients are used to or what they think a doctor should be wearing. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, I think the beauty of building my practice is that I can wear a hoop and a red lip and a skirt and a heel. And it's like, oh my God, you're so cute. Like, I love having a fabulous eye doctor, as opposed to like, oh my God, you're so unprofessional. Like, why do you look like that?
Yeah. I also was like, well, she can go somewhere else if she wants to, I guess.
100%. Like, again, repulsive. Like, it's not for everyone. Like, it's okay. If I'm not the provider for you, like, look around. There is an optometry shop on every corner.
Right.
You do not have to come to see me. And I think like that's my favorite thing about this stage of the business. Like, we're very by appointment only, no walk-ins. I mean, you can walk in and make an appointment, but I never liked that cavalier attitude of like, I'm going for a walk. I'm going to walk my dog. Let me just hop in and get an eye exam and give me my contact lens prescription so I can go buy one 1-800. Like, no, go somewhere else if that's the experience you want. Like, if you want to come here, you need to make an appointment. You need to treat this the same way you treat your primary care doctor, same way you treat your dentist, same way you treat your physical therapist, right? You are going to treat optometry with the same respect. We're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, we're very proud of you. Like, this is crazy. Like, I wanted to come by, but we were there for like near there for like a wedding, but I couldn't make it. But I am like, when I saw you cut the ribbon, I got emotional for you. I'm gonna start crying now. It's just the pregnancy hormones, guys. Anyway, but like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad that you got this, like, you know, this dream going, and that you're doing it all, girls. So you inspire us all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm proud of all of you guys and all of the things that you're building. I think one of the most amazing things about social media is the ability for us to connect. And, you know, so many of us have connected when you guys were students and we were young doctors. And now, you know, all of our careers have changed. But, you know, you guys are all doing incredible things. And at the end of the day, my goal is always to be a resource. Like, if someone asks me a question, I'm going to answer it. I don't gatekeep. I'm going to tell you where things, even though I will say I need to probably start gatekeeping some things a little bit more. I'm giving out things a little bit too freely because I'm like, that's looking a little familiar. But in general, like, I am really here to be a resource. And, you know, Nadia, we talked when you were thinking about buying your practice, like, any questions anyone has, like, I am an open book. People have done it for me, and it is my responsibility to do it for the next generation. And I have like very, very big plans and big dreams for my business. But a part of that is being an example to the next generation of optometrists that you don't have to choose between one or the other. You do have to obviously prioritize, right? You cannot do everything at one time, but we can be successful and we can build really big businesses just like anyone else can. And I think, you know, with all of the things that you guys are working on, again, congratulations to you. And if there's anything that I can help you guys or even the listeners, you know, you can always just reach out to me. I'm always happy to be an open book and offer whatever help or advice or support I can.
Yeah, drop all your handles right now so they know where to find you.
Yeah, so my more personal account is at Fierce Clarity, and that's where you should like DM me if you have any real questions. Our practice account is at Clarity on Melrose, and multiple people have access to that inbox. So I might miss it. That's why I say Fierce Clarity is best. If you want to see the vibe of the practice and what we have built, you can look on the Instagram. You can also check out our website, www.clarityonmelrose.com. This, I would say, is my pride and joy. I really designed a space that is unique, and I hope that it gives you some inspo as you're thinking about your own practices. But yeah, I mean, that's where you can find me online and see what I'm up to. And you can also send me an email, drdanielle@clarityonmelrose.com. You have like more intense questions or you want a little bit more guidance on something, it's easier to share resources and links via email than it is on social.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming. We won't take any more of your time. We took a lot more time. I was just so excited to talk to you about everything.
I'm so excited to come. I'm
here.
finally able to make it onto the pod. And I finally have something to talk about, you know, like in those planning phases.
Yeah, put us on your IG. Well, yeah, I'll talk about it. By the way, your artist is amazing. Like, I can't believe.
If you're listening and you don't know, I commissioned a custom mural in the bathroom. We wanted the bathroom to be fun. And when I started to look at how much wallpaper costs, it's not fun. Okay. So I went a different route, and I was able to, with the help of my interior designer, we conceptualized this concept of different characters you would see shopping on Melrose. So when you go into the bathroom, there is an all immersive art mural that has been painted by hand by a local artist. That is different characters you would see on Melrose. And again, these are like, to me, the design features that are super important to my business and my brand feeling different. Like, there are not a lot of offices where you walk into the bathroom and there's a mural, right? There's not a lot of businesses in general. So I think by being unique and creating these sort of design touches, again, you're able to capture those customers who care about that sort of thing, which that's me. Oh yeah, look, this is a tour of our, That's a good one. Oh yeah, this is the great one of the actual art itself. So we
It
did.
was so yeah, because I watched it being done and it was like and it was so fast. Like
That's the bathroom. Whoa.
it only took like a day or two, right?
It took several days. She did like 5
Really?
days total.
I feel like it was so quick. I was like, my gosh, it's already
No,
done.
but it's all done by hand. And again, you know, some people might say that's a waste of money, right? Some people would be like, that is not the way you should be spending your money as a new business opening up. But I would disagree, because these are the types of elements that make someone say, oh my God, I loved this. This is so fun. I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love that.
Yeah, so it's all these different characters. They have their matcha, they have their coffee, you know, someone's walking their dog, everyone has their shopping bags, everyone's wearing glasses, and it says Clarity and has our logo like all in the art. So, you know, it's really, really cool to be able to bring those types of sensibilities to optometry when, again, I haven't necessarily like seen that before. And I felt like as a student that the type of optometry that I wanted didn't exist, and it didn't. It just like, I have to create the version that feels good for me. And being in a beautiful space, working with local artists, having brands that I believe in and support is an expression of optometry that feels really good for me.
Yeah, we'll all have to stop in just for the bathroom pics.
Yes,
so.
Everyone come in for the bathroom, please. But also, you know, shop a frame or two.
Yeah,
You know?
That too.
Send your friends, send your family. www.clarityonmelrose.com and see what we're up to. You can book appointments online. You can also text us. We make it very convenient and very easy for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna make my appointment right now, actually.
Yeah, exactly. You come and I'll check your eyes, and I can come to you and check my eye.
Well, we'll have to check in with you in like a year and let us know like everything that like has changed for
And
you.
I would love to, you know, if there's more of like a cold start specific episode you guys want to have, or if listeners have like really specific questions about the nuts and bolts and the numbers of a cold start, we can also do that episode, because I'm happy to share.
Yeah. Great to know, because there's just
well,
not enough hours.
Have a fabulous evening. I will do the same. Thank you so much for having me on. And if you are listening and have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'm Dr.
Bye. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Depth Perception Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all of our platforms, including
Spotify,
Instagram,
Google Podcast,
Apple Podcast.
YouTube. Make sure you click that button. Double tap that.
So you guys have no reason not to follow us and tune in to the next episode.
Stop wasting time.
Get it done.
Subscribe.